I have always been interested in studying literature, but I don't need a certificate, and so it would be quite useless to spend so much money on an education that I don't need. So what I did is I created my own reading list of books that I think I should read. I also made a list of universities and colleges that offer free literature courses online. I made my own program, and today I want to share it with you, hoping that it could be useful to you in any way. I made a schedule that works for me personally, but of course you can make your own changes to the schedule. What I find amazing about this is that I can pick my own books, the books that I want to read, and I can do it in as much or as little time as I want to. I often hear literature students complain about losing their love for books and for reading because they have to read so much. They constantly have to read and they cannot pick the books they want to read. Also, a lot of educations focus on English literature. And as for me, I personally am obsessed with French literature. I absolutely love it, and of course I am going to add a lot of French authors to my list. Of course, doing this all by yourself comes with a lot of challenges. You have to set your own deadlines, you have to be dedicated enough to do it, but I think I am, and I think it will all work out. I'm also going to be writing essays and works on the books that I have read for this syllabus and course, and I will also try to make as many videos about the books that I read as possible. So I'm going to grab my schedule. So this is a list that I curated myself of works that I think I should read over the coming years. There's not really a deadline for this, but I do want to make sure that I read these at some point. So I will read this list to you now, but it will also be available as a PDF on my Patreon page for free. You just have to become a free member. It's one tab, and then you can access all of my free PDFs that I share. If you're not interested in hearing this list, you can just skip to the next part. We start with ancient literature. Homer, Virgil, Sophocles, Euripides, Plato, Aristotle, Ovid, the Bhagavad Gita, Confucius, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and various books of the Bible for their literary value and influence. Then we have medieval literature. Dante Alighieri, Chaucer, Beowulf, The Song of Roland, Sir Thomas Malory, Le Morte d'Arthur, Saint Augustine, Confessions, Marguerite Kemp, The Arabian Nights. As for Renaissance literature, William Shakespeare, John Milton, Christopher Marlowe, Edmund Spenser, Michel de Montaigne, Miguel de Cervantes, and Thomas More. For enlightenment, I have John Locke, Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Immanuel Kant, Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, and Denis Diderot. Romanticism, I have William Wordsworth, Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Jane Austen, and Edgar Allan Poe. Then I go to the Victorian era. Charles Dickens, Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, Oscar Wilde, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. We go to 19th century Russian literature. Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Turgenev, and Gogol. Then we go to modernist literature. James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, Franz Kafka, Marcel Proust, William Faulkner, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Ernest Hemingway. Then I go to post-modern and contemporary. George Orwell, Samuel Beckett, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Toni Morrison, Margaret Atwood, Vladimir Nabokov, Haruki Murakami. Of course, you can make your own changes to this list, but this is, I think, a great start. There are some works that I've already read on this list, but yeah, I'm gonna work my way through over the coming years. Now let's talk about the courses that I'm going to be following this year in 2025 and 2026. This year I followed Masterpieces of World Literature and a course on Dante's Divine Comedy. I still have to follow the lecture on Thomas Hardy, Far From the Madding Crowd, and a lecture on A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I've already read A Christmas Carol, so I'm not going to read it again, but I am interested in looking into this lecture. So Far From the Madding Crowd is a course that I'm going to be following in November, and A Christmas Carol in December. As for my 2025 schedule, I'm so excited for this. I'm going to start the year in January with Shakespeare's life and work. In February, I'm going to do The Merchant of Venice. In March, we're doing Hamlet. In April, Othello. And then in May, Hamlet and The Tempest. So it's going to be very focused on Shakespeare in the first half of that year. Then I have a very big one. So we have June, July, August. And this course is named Great Books, Renaissance to Modern. So this talks about Don Quixote, Hamlet, The Tempest, Paradise Lost, Faust, Notes from the Underground, The Fall by Camus, T.S. Eliot's poetry, Pride and Prejudice, and Huckleberry Finn. So I think I need to take my time with that course. In September, I'm doing Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, so that will be a good moment to check that off my list. November, The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster, Acts 1 and 2. And then in December, we do the poetry of Sorley MacLean. I don't know who that is, never heard of the man, but we're doing it. Then my 2026 schedule. In January, I'm going to do 2 courses on classic children's literature. February is the Young Jane Austen Northanger Abbey. March is Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, selected short stories. In April, we're doing an introduction to C.S. Lewis, so I might pick up one of his books then. In May, June, July, August, and September, this is also a very big course, is Great Books 101 Ancient to Medieval. And they will discuss the Iliad, the Odyssey, Oedipus Rex, the Aeneid, the David story, the Book of Job, St. Augustine's Confessions, Inferno, Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, so I'm going to need all those months. In November, it's time for Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, and in December, it's Virginia Woolf's Between the Acts. It took me so much time to curate these lists and to figure out which universities and colleges offered these free courses. And aside from these courses and the list that I made, I'm also focusing extra on French literature. So everything that I'm going to read on the side will be French literature or books that I picked for my book club schedule of 2025. If you don't need the certificate and you're just doing it out of love for literature, then this might just be the perfect thing to do. If you're passionate about literature, don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you next week.